Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to episode number 69 of the WP Café podcast with myself and my co-host Keith Devon. I'm Mark Wilkinson, and in this episode, we're going to be looking at a few interesting topics that have been in the WordPress news space this week. And hopefully they'll get everyone chatting. That's good. How are you anyway, Keith? How's your week been before we get started?
Pretty good. I've been enjoying getting stuck into a few little bits and pieces. A little bit of actual front-end development for a client, which was really fun. Didn't last long, but it was good fun. I enjoyed that. Building like a product catalog front-end. So I really enjoyed that. And then I've been getting stuck into our, marketing work. Going down the path to start setting up some ads for RecPress.
Very good.
So I've been enjoying that, just playing about with some tools, doing some keyword analysis, playing with ChatGPT a bit for some copywriting and ad ideas, and playing with Canva a little bit and Sketch a little bit, and so I've been really enjoying it. It's been good. How about you?
Very good. Very good. One or two crises to navigate around this week, notably yesterday afternoon when suddenly everything died on a multi-site. Not quite sure why yet, but we'll work that out. That was interesting and rather nerve-wracking. Just plodding along, supporting customers on Job Relay and stuff. And I did the back-end work for the catalogue that you mentioned, but I did that last week, so not this week. So that was slightly different. But it's been all right. The weather's been absolutely horrific. Not been able to get out and play golf because it's been absolutely tipping it down every day, but hey ho, it's getting towards winter, I suppose, isn't it? You can't expect.
It's nice here. It's meant to be like 20 degrees or over here for the next 5 days.
I think it's supposed to get nicer tomorrow for us up here. Yeah. But it's not good today. It's not cold, but it's not. It's not nice. Let me put it that way. So hello to Ross Xlams Elliot. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't already popped your name in the chat and said hello, then please do. It's nice to know who is listening to us. Good to get that out of the way. Right, what's our first topic? So this is based off of kind of a discussion that's going around in the WordPress community at the moment, and I also tweeted this out and actually got loads of really good replies actually. And that is the lack of block themes or the lack of adoption of block themes. Now, I had to check what a block theme was because we seem to have that much terminology now. And a block theme is basically a theme that uses blocks for all aspects of the site. So for me, it's like a full site editing experience. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's so few of these themes in the theme repository and just a general slowness of the uptake of them. And so the question is, why is that? What is the reason for people not using block themes? And if you've got any comments in the comments, then let us know what's your reason for not using block themes. Or if you are an avid block theme user and you are pumping sites out for clients using block themes, then let us know as well, because I'm sure you've got some insights that we could all learn from. So what's your thoughts, Keith?
Yeah, I think firstly it's difficult to have these conversations because of the terminology and the kind of grey areas around what we're actually talking about. Like, are we actually talking about a problem with block themes, or are we talking about a problem with full site editing, or are we talking about a problem with the block editor? I don't like, it's kind of because the adoption of any of those things is interlinked with all the rest of it. So it's kind of hard just to isolate it on block themes. But I think the answer is they're not as good as the alternatives.
The alternatives are
page builders, mature page builders. I mean, I've been forced to use all of the page builders recently.
Yep.
And I don't like any of them personally, but I see why people use them because they're just so much more powerful than the block editor. You know, we were having a conversation yesterday, I think, Mark, wasn't it? That a client came to us with a mock-up for a page that they want to implement on their website. We've built the site using blocks. I don't think it's a full site editing site, that particular one. But we use blocks on the site, and then we were thinking, okay, so what can we build? How can we build this page with blocks? And the first things that came up in my head was, well, we can't add that border down that side of that block because we don't have those controls enabled on this theme. So we can't do that. And then you're like, I think you opened up like a fresh version of WordPress and just started fiddling about, and you got really far. You were like, okay, well I can add a border, that's cool, that works, to a column, that works. And then I was like, yeah, but nothing lines up anymore. And then you're like, okay, well we'll add some padding. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah. So it's kind of lined it up. And then it's like, what happens on mobile? Oh yeah, so everything's stacked, but we still have a border on the right side of this column where you'd want it on the bottom, and we've got no way of controlling that. Whereas with Elementor or Divi or anything else, you have like responsive layout controls. So there's one big one. We don't have responsive layout controls. Now, I don't particularly want responsive layout controls because I want that stuff to be in the realm of the theme, but that isn't what WordPress is anymore. So I've lost that, I've not personally lost that battle, but that's done, So I just like comparing the tools that we have. I can totally get why people use Elementor or use Divi or Astra or any of these other tools that just give just way more power to do these things. You look at design, you think, yeah, I can do that, rather than looking at design and thinking, can't really do any of that. I mean, it's amazing what you can do, especially when you've got a bit of experience with the block editor. You look at Poodle Press, Jamie Marshland's channel. He's constantly like recreating other people's websites with the block editor, and it's really impressive what he gets done. But it's never like,
but they're not perfect, and that's
never perfect. It's a good representation, but it's not like not perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was interesting, that little experiment we did when I loaded up the default WordPress. It was just, I think it's just a default WordPress install with 2023. That's the one, isn't it? With the latest one we're up to. And it was what you can do. And I didn't kind of realize you could do as much as we could. But we spent like 10 minutes. Well, I was just literally on a call like this, and we were just chatting away through it, and I had my screen sharing. I'm like, yeah, you could put the borders on and stuff. But then you were like, oh, the padding's going to be off now. And it was. But then you fix that by sort of grouping this together and then making sure there's another group in the other one and adding padding to the group, not the column. And it's just too complicated.
It's a hack as well.
It's a hack. And like, the only reason I know that will work is because I understand, elements on a page and divs and the fact that you can and have padding and the box model and stuff like that. But clients won't understand that at all. They won't understand how to put those together.
Yeah.
What was pretty cool though is that now you could, once I'd made this column layout and I got my border down the middle and I'd done the bits and bobs, you can actually save it as a pattern that is a synced pattern. You give it a name, and then if the client presses the plus button and then searches for that, then they can just drop that on a page with all those settings set in place, which was pretty good. But I can just imagine that client websites are just going to become like pattern hell. There's just going to be so many patterns in there that how do you organize them and how do they know what they're called and to drop these things on the page? It just seems really, really strange. And the other thing we were chatting through with like issues is that, and it was based off the design we were given, because the design we were given had like all the main page titles as bold, and the actual website didn't have the titles as bold. And we just kind of had that discussion about, well, with block editor, like what do you do? Because if the titles of a design are bold, you can't make them bold in the style sheet, because then they can't unmake them bold in the editor. So you're relying on the client to add a title and make it bold and make all those design decisions, and if they change their mind, how do you change that globally for every title on the site? You've got to go into each page and edit it. Those are the sorts of things that are just really holding back agencies, I think, from using block themes. And there are fundamental problems that either people aren't interested in solving, or they're so hard to solve that they're going to take a long time to solve. I'm not quite sure what the answer to that is, but those are some of the problems that we've seen, haven't we, and so forth. And although, I'm trying to think that we have built one site, haven't we, fully on full site editing. And I can't remember some of the issues, but they were fundamental sort of big issues that we had, wasn't it? Sort of outputting like terms and things on posts for like categories, and the fact that they automatically like link to the archive, and you might not be using the archive, and you've got to go in and change them. And then how do you change them? You're left with using render block and doing a lot of search replace stuff. It just seems a bit strange to do it with. But anyway, there you go.
On the whole like block adoption thing, I mean, our anecdotal experience of integrating Job Relay with probably close to 400 websites.
Yep.
How many of those websites have been using blocks? And like off the top of your head?
0.
400
I have not come
websites.
across any website that I've integrated Job Relay with that has used blocks.
And Job Relay started in 2000, so the block editor is... Sorry, 2020. So the block editor is older than Job Relay.
A bit years old, isn't it, I think?
And of those 400 sites, not one of them... Or if it is one, it's one or two.
I can't remember one. So if it is one, we're talking 1 or 2. We're talking a tiny proportion. But so, like, what does that tell you?
It's pretty damning.
No one's using the block editor. Never mind full site editing. Because for reasons that we've probably just explained, or some of the reasons we've probably explained. We've got lots of people chatting in the comments. What is everybody saying? Let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
Sam says, I don't think FSC is ready for agency adoption, missing too many basic features. I think we've just mentioned some. It would be interesting, Sam, if you can think of any that we haven't mentioned, that it is missing and that you think are really important. Because it might be that some of them are actually quite easy to add, I don't know. Peter, thanks for joining us. Hello. The main thing about the numbers around adoption is remembering that the general population has no need or reason to change themes in the first place. Yep, really good point. So I've got my site. It's working really well. Love it. I don't need to change, do I? So
I do think they're like we're 4 years into Gutenberg, if we can still call it Gutenberg. I mean, the life cycle, I don't know what the life cycle of a website is, the kind of average, but it surely is around 3 or 4 years. So you'd think things would have picked up a lot recently if that was an attractive... People are building... I guess the point is, we're working on a lot of sites that are new sites.
Yep.
And none of them are using the block editor either. So, we're doing Job Relay integrations on a weekly basis, like twice a week, and there still haven't been any. So, yeah, I don't think you're wrong, Peter. I think like there is a natural kind of lag in these things because people are happy with what they have. But plenty of people have moved on from the sites they had, and they're still not choosing the block editor in our experience.
Yeah, I think Peter's right, though. If you built a website for someone back in 18, 19, and even though the block editor was out then, you may well have chosen not to use it because it was very in its infancy and you didn't want to push the boat at that point. Round about now or in a year's time, that website might be coming up for change. A website, it can easily last 4 or 5 years, can't it, as we've seen with some of our clients. So I think those customers, for sure, have no need to change until they want to change the websites for other reasons. Maybe the reason is that they don't like the editing experience they've got and they want to update it, and that maybe the block editor would help them, but we'll see. Yeah. Who else have we got? We've got Elliot. Thanks for joining us, Elliot. A block theme is designed to fully work with the full site editing experience, but I can still do more in a classic theme, and it uses blocks, like Keith says, no responsive controls. So what problem is it solving? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's probably important to say that we are actually quite fans of the block editor for posts and pages and custom post types. We've enjoyed building websites where it's is that called a hybrid theme? I'm not sure anymore. So. But so we're using the block editor just for the content of posts and pages, but we're not using it for the full site editing experience, which is kind of what you alluded to there. What else have we got?
Joss says, just use CSS to refine. Well, I think that was when we were talking about getting so far with the block editor and not being able to kind of do those responsive styles. And that's fine, but that gets very messy, and it's not an end user solution. And this is what the block editor and full site editing is for. It's for people. It's for website owners. It's meant to be a no code solution. So just saying that you can just use CSS feels like a bit of a cop out. Don't get me wrong. I love CSS. That is what I love more than anything else. Except my wife and daughter, obviously. But yeah, in a professional sense, CSS is my thing. So like, I mean, I'm very upset to see how kind of CSS has been kind of treated in a way in the WordPress space. But if we're going to go that route and kind of cut the theme developer kind of out of the equation almost, and it all becomes about using the tools within the full site editor to do things, then you've got to pull that bandage off and just rip it off and like sprinkling CSS here and there. It's just, in my opinion, that just gets a bit messy. But I agree that is probably the solution today. Yeah,
which is what we're kind of going with RecPress, aren't we?
Yes.
Have an output and then make that output as flexible as you can using CSS to make the changes.
Yeah,
that's the plan. But whether it'll come off, we'll see. Elliot also said, no, there are global styles for controlling global styles.
Yeah.
So I think you mean like changing things globally, like you want to change the headings.
Yeah, I think when you were talking about making,
yeah. But will that work? So if I set all headings in the global styles to have a bold, then will I be able to override them? And what if they've already been set in the editor on another page to not bold? Will that override that? I don't know. And I think that's very confusing for users as well. What am I actually doing when I'm setting global styles? Maybe that's just me, but I find that really confusing. What's actually going to change when I do this thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that could be communicated a bit better.
Yeah.
A few people saying they're building hybrid themes with ACF blocks, which is, that's kind of the approach we've taken for most of our stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think one last point on this is I've seen some tweets about people saying, you shouldn't be using things like Elementor, Divi, pick another one. I don't know. They're all out there because, your content is locked in to those platforms. But I think most people don't really care about that because they'll have a new website built in 3, 4, 5 years' time, and then we'll just change it anyway.
Yeah.
Most websites that we deal with, I don't know, they probably have 40 pages, 100 blog posts.
Yeah.
If the worst comes to the worst, you just copy and paste them into the new system. I think if you're building sites for huge enterprises that have millions of pages and posts, then yes, that is a massive problem that you don't want content locking.
When a client is commissioning a new website, they're taking that opportunity to restructure the website and redo the copywriting. It's very rare that they want all of the same content on the new site. Like that's pretty rare in our experience anyway. So yes, tricky one. But this leads into something else I wanted to mention today. I saw a tweet by Daniel, I think Shootsmith, I think his name is. And he was responding to someone saying that it was time to look at Wix again because there's a lot you can do with it. With their custom dev platform. There's this Wix.com/studio coming out. There's a GitHub connection, local development, and all this kind of stuff. So Wix have decided to improve their developer experience, and it's got some WordPress people just kind of having a look. And there was an interesting reply by Carolina. Carolina comes up in this show a lot. We're big fans. She says basically, but does that matter if they have terms where they can decide to shut you down at any time and where they can decide who owns the content? My response to Carolina, but it does matter. We can't, as the WordPress community, we can't just keep falling back to this. Yeah, but it's open source. Yeah, but you own your own content. That stuff is super, super important. But at some point, there is a tipping point where if the tool is not as good as the closed source competitors, it doesn't matter. People are going to go for those closed source options. And for most people, they don't care. They don't care about open source. They don't care about content ownership. They care about affordability. Does it look good? Is it easy to use? That's it. And so it's like, I get Carolina's point, and I'm on her side. Like, that stuff does matter to me, but only to a point. I put content out on other platforms like Twitter. I don't even know what the terms and conditions are. Do they own that? Do they own my tweets? Probably.
I would imagine so.
So it only, that argument only goes so far, and it won't keep WordPress alive. That is not what's going to keep WordPress alive. WordPress is as popular as it is today because at a point probably about 10 years ago, it was head and shoulders above the competition. it was the best platform, so everyone moved to it. It's now arguably not the best platform in a lot of cases, so people are moving away from it.
Ties in with what Elliot just said here. It's worth noting that Block seems to are for users, not developers. They're a no-code approach where success lies in its developer communities and agencies. I've no data to back that up, but like what you were saying, I think 10 years ago when WordPress was head and shoulders above the rest, and it was pretty developer-friendly,
yes,
those two things combined to just snowball it forward in front of everything else. And at the moment, the block editor isn't that for me. Or sorry, the full site experience isn't that. It's not developer friendly. It's just very hard to do anything unless, you could argue that, you need to learn React and JavaScript. But the point being is that if people don't know it and they don't want to learn it, then they will use something else. Do you know what I mean? We keep hearing this. Well, it's our fault because we don't know this and we don't know that. Well, like I'm starting to think, well, I didn't change it. I didn't make that decision to change it. That was done by someone else for reasons that I'm not entirely sure about.
Yeah, I really don't like the argument that it's the developer community's fault for the adoption, as in we haven't leveled up, we haven't learned how to use blocks, we haven't done X and Y, and I don't know if people are saying that directly, but it definitely feels like there's a tone of that sometimes, and it's just like, no. And if you're going to keep saying that, it's like nothing's going to improve. If lots of people are saying that this isn't a good situation, it probably isn't a good situation. The reasons for it might be arguable, but like if developers are like losing love and losing, like looking elsewhere, there is a problem. Like even if it's just a problem of like perception, and the reality is different, it's still a problem. But yeah. Anyway.
I feel like that. I feel like you're told that you're not leveling up properly and you don't know this stuff and you should. Yeah, I'm sure others feel the same. But yeah. Anyway, interesting topic.
Yeah,
and I think interesting to watch how it progresses over the next few months and years, and what happens to the developer experience, maybe, which is perhaps one of the reasons why the adoption has been slow. But,
I think so.
Which kind of leads on to this next topic, which is like marketing full site editing. And you actually put an interesting tweet out. So it had like 4 videos on it. Do you want to just explain? Because you were replying to someone else as well, weren't you? So I think it might be better to explain what you were doing there.
I can't remember who it was. Someone was saying, who was that? If I can think for 2 seconds. Brad. It was Brad, wasn't it? Brad Williams.
Brad Williams. Yes.
He mentioned something along the lines of, the full site editing and WordPress in general isn't marketed like the competitors, and I was just basically agreeing with him and saying, have a look at this video from Wix, this video from Squarespace, this video from Webflow or whatever it was. I can't remember what the examples were that I found, but I just went on YouTube and Googled like what is Webflow or what is Wix, and the video content for those platforms is just like vastly superior to anything that comes out for WordPress. Now, WordPress has a lot of user-generated content that is good, but if you just want a slick, shiny, this is WordPress and this is what it can do, I couldn't find it. And I just
Brad's
feel like those...
Brad's point was like, when you go to the WordPress site about the block editor, inversely to what we've just been talking about, it's all very developer-y. Actually,
that's true.
Like, people just want to know, what is it? What does it do? What does it do for me? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And those videos maybe that you posted to, I must have confessed I didn't watch them all, but they kind of, they're like the Apple video, aren't they, to advertise this thing. And I don't know, maybe WordPress needs something like that. We've often said, haven't we? We'd love a video to be able to just send to a client and say, look, this is kind of what we're going to build for you. This is how you're going to be able to edit pages and posts.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could build one, but it wouldn't be as flashy and nice, would it?
No.
So it'd maybe nice to have something like that.
Yeah, I think basically it's a hard sell, and maybe it's a hard sell because it's not that good. Compared to things like Elementor, and I'm talking about Elementor as something different to WordPress because in this sense it is. But even the Elementor stuff is like really, really slick, and people know Elementor and they've used it, and you're like, well, you could have the block editor instead. They're like, okay, what's that like? Like, it's like, where do you go? You can't send them somewhere like, if you look at this page and this video, you'll understand it and you'll want it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. What I did see is that the WordPress, I think it's wordpress.org/Gutenberg. Let me just check. Yeah, that is now an editor. So you can actually go in and play with it. So you could send that to a client and say...
But that's not a great experience because it's not like... Yeah. If it was an editor with like a nice onboarding system, like... Yeah. Do you know, one of those things that like takes you around like a tour? If it was that kind of thing, then yeah. But you can just land on that and you're like, right?
What is it? Yeah. What am I doing here? Is this a web page? Is it? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it doesn't look good. Like, it's not really a great advert. I love minimal design, typography-led design, but most clients want something a bit more flashy. Maybe is the wrong word, but no, maybe it's not. A bit flashier. A bit more modern video backgrounds and like sliding this and like that it's not really selling it, you know, as like a fully featured page builder. Anyway, we're doing a lot of complaining today. Do we have anything?
There's a couple more comments come in. Elliot says, I tweeted yesterday a simple function in WooCommerce to add a custom field in the checkout. Add a filter hook with the Blockify WooCommerce multiple layers just to do a simple thing. So I think your point is very valid. Like, to do something in the block editor, like to change something and filter something and make something different is just so much more difficult. I was trying to do it with the search block. Yeah. You know, we have a search block, and I wanted to be able to restrict that search block to a specific post type. The only way I could do it was to create a variation of the block, which seems a bit overkill, but it would work. Or and it would work within the parameters because you can only use one post type if you do that. Or again, we're back to filtering render block. So I added a class and then detected the class and then started the render block to add a new input in. It just seems a bit non-WordPressy. WordPress is always wonderful and for being able to change things and edit things, and you know, as a developer, and it seems to have got a bit worse now. Yeah. This I like. Shopify has a community keynote every month talking about new features, tips, community spotlights. That might be nice, like a monthly meetup talk about what's going on and what changes are and what features there are and things. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that comes as a blog post, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like quite regularly. But yeah, it isn't. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah,
different, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, marketing WordPress. Perhaps it's hard, and yeah,
I think it's hard.
And I also wonder, like, it's open source, so actually, it needs someone to do it, doesn't it? Yeah. There isn't a marketing department. I know there's a marketing. I think there's a marketing team.
Yeah,
part of Make or Core, whatever you call it. But yeah, it needs a budget, I suppose, and stuff like that. Which is, when you're open source, it's more difficult to galvanize that together, isn't it, and find that resource from somewhere. So
yeah.
Hey ho. Anyway, next point on our list of things. Although we've already done nearly 30 minutes with that, but
I think we should wrap it up soon. But
I want to mention this because I woke up this morning to a big debate about a plugin preview button. I don't know if anyone else has seen this. And they'd rolled out this button that was appearing on all of the plugin repositories that was a preview. And what happened when you click on the button, it took you to the WordPress playground, which is where you can run WordPress in a browser, and it installed the plugin. So that you could, I guess the idea is you could like have a look at this plugin in action and have a play with it. And then the ticket had the track ticket had just so many people saying what a bad idea it was, and the fact that it should be opt out rather than opt in. That it should be opt in rather than opt out. Sorry, the other way around. Anyway, 12 hours later, it's gone, which I find very strange. That it was rolled out in the first place, and then it was quickly rolled backwards. It seems a bit of a strange move.
I thought it wasn't gone. I thought they've changed it. Is it gone? Gone?
I thought it had gone. I think that when I last read the track ticket, it just said we've rolled this back and we'll discuss it further or something like that.
Oh,
basically.
Wow.
So
okay.
There's lots of people mentioning that you should be able to put your own URL in for that button so that you can show a demo on your own site or something. I thought that was a good idea, but I'm not sure how you police that for abuse. Taking people to something else. That's all. But
that's open to abuse for sure.
I see the point. But anyway, that's an interesting little update overnight.
Yep.
Do you want to mention quickly about marketing stuff you've been doing, and ads and stuff?
I gave a really brief. Yeah, I gave a brief overview at the top of the show, but I'm in my second week of working with a digital marketing guy to kind of talk me through setting everything up for ads. So I've got some nasty tracking scripts ready to go. So that's pretty horrible. So the next thing, I need to get our cookie policy stuff on the websites, and then I can start running those tracking scripts. Yeah, that was a hard one for me. I mean, we could have talked about that as a topic at some point, but we had better stuff to talk about today. But just having to delve into that whole world of Google and Meta and tracking just feels really dirty. But what are the alternatives if you want to run ads online? So I've been doing that, and then I have been playing about with some ideas for like ad copy and style, trying to get the messaging right, looking at the search, keyword research to kind of help with what are people actually searching for in and around the topic of WordPress job boards.
It's been good, that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah. Like what's the angle going to be? Because we've got two markets, and I think my hunch at the minute is that we can capture the developer market by running ads against WP Job Manager.
Yep.
And selling RecPress as WP Job Manager Plus. Obviously not branded like that, but essentially that's the messaging. We take WP Job Manager and we do it for you and make it awesome. So I think there's a possibility there. And then the other market is the recruitment agencies themselves, and I think that's where the meta advertising is going to come in on Facebook and Instagram, where we say, look, does your job board look like this? Is it a bit shit? Is the search a bit rubbish? Are you not happy with the design? Yada yada. Then we can help. So I think there's I think there'll be a split in the two platforms. I think we'll get more developers from Google with WP Job Manager searches, and I think we'll probably get more recruiters through Meta by targeting them and their unhappiness with their current job board. So that's my hunch. Okay. We'll test it out. So hope that'll go well.
Very good, very good. Right, I think we should wrap it up because obviously we've done 32 minutes talking about full site editing and other various things. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for joining us, and apologies if we didn't get to your comment, but thanks very much for diving into the comments and letting us know your thoughts, as always. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? You should have by now. Please do so. Please like this video if you've enjoyed the episode. And we will be back the same time next week, I believe. So we'll see you then.
See you next time. Bye.